Welcome to FinanceFeeds podcasts. FinanceFeeds is the world's premier interactive Forex industry news source, providing the latest insights and current affairs from within the online trading industry worldwide. Enjoy our latest podcast episode. Hi, everyone. My name is Nikolai Isayev. I'm editor-in-chief of FinanceFeeds. On this episode of our podcast, we have Tony Petrov, who's chief legal officer at Sumsub. Tony, welcome to our show.
I'm really glad to be here. Thank you for the
Thanks.
invitation.
Absolutely. So Tony, you and I, we've never formally met. I'm not
Yeah,
sure if my audience is familiar with you as well. Could you
yeah.
spend a few moments to tell us a little bit about yourself and your responsibilities at Sumsub in your role of chief legal officer?
Yeah, well, it actually kind of like can be divided into parts. So the first part is like the boring stuff, which is usually done by chief legal officer. This means like internal procedures, corporate and stuff. It doesn't. It's not. I think it's not very interesting for the audience. And the second part, since we are a RegTech company, this means that what we are doing, we are basically offering products that are addressed to compliance teams and lawyers eventually of our clients, and they evaluate our products, and they give their feedback and final opinion about our product. So that's why we need like the attention of lawyers onto our products, and so we actually do a lot of research and development on the legal side of the products, and that's why my second role is to supervise this work and to be sure that we at every moment we are aware about the actual requirements in various parts of the world, and also the third part is marketing, because we sell what we sell. A part of what we sell, basically, apart from technology, we also sell expertise, and so so my role is also to represent our company on various forums and conferences and marketing materials, talking about regulations and compliance and new trends, etc., etc. So that's what I'm doing also.
hmm Great, awesome. And in regards to what you just mentioned, kind of selling expertise and providing expertise, I saw that you recently attended the IFX Expo in Dubai
Yeah,
last month, I think, and you were a speaker
yeah.
there. I wanted to ask if you could tell us about the topic of the panel that you were on and sort of your takeaways or impressions of that panel and the conference in general.
Yeah, we had fireside chat, or also known as campfire chat. I really like this format. It's really funny when
hmm
people just are going around and and you're sitting in front of the audience, trying to be as loud as as it is possible because of the people around, etc. But it's really fun. So our topic was regulation across borders. So it was about how various fintechs are regulated in different places. And obviously, since most of fintechs, FX, cryptos, they work all around the globe. They are global companies, global businesses. So the question is how to organize, how to arrange the infrastructure of those companies so that it would be efficient and at the same time absolutely legit. So
hmm
and also cost effective. This is also very important. And so we had a
Sure.
very good panel. We had Evdokia Pitsilidou from Salvos, from Cyprus, and then we had Dimitris Taxitaris, also from Cyprus, and then we had Dr. Zvi Gabe from Israel. And Zvi is a fantastic guy. I really recommend you to maybe to follow him in LinkedIn. He's a fantastic guy. He has a vision of regulatory compliance all around the globe, and he
hmm
and we discussed. I mean, both of other speakers, of course, were also very insightful, because Cyprus is also the place where most of the global businesses are not only located but also sometimes having headquarters, and so that's extremely important for them to be able to talk about these things. And so
hmm
we talked about this, and we talked about the current trends. We talked about MENA region. MENA is like Middle East and North Africa. Basically, this
Sure.
means
Yep.
Dubai.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah. It,
that's the main point. Um, and we discussed these things. I would say that the conference was very good. I mean, I've been to several IFX conferences. Okay, this one, it was a bit smaller than the previous ones. I don't know why, but I mean, in any case, the quality of the event was still very high, and I saw other. Discussions. They had many discussions about the current topics. Of course, IFX. IFX is like the place where you can talk about FX compliance or FX technologies. You can talk about crypto, etc., etc. So different things,
mhm.
such yes, SaaS solutions or development from the scratch, tokenomics versus metaverse, all these things. So yeah, it was very interesting place to be, and I really advise people to go to such events, even if you don't really you're not really into like discussions on panels. You can just go around and talk to people, and obviously find some new partnerships or whatever you have. And I mean, the parties are also very good there.
Well, yes. I mean, we attend these events ourselves as well, and that's sort of why I wanted to get your impression of
Hmm.
how it went for you. We were unable, unfortunately, to attend this particular one, but we attend most of the IFX and Finance Magnets events.
I would
I
add,
did
I
hear
would
you
add, I would,
mention, yeah,
yeah, I would
yeah.
add,
Go
I
ahead.
would add also, yeah, I would add also that Dubai is, of course, is a special place because, I mean, as a compliance officer, to a certain extent, I'm mesmerized by the fact that Dubai is on the gray list of FATF, so it's like kind of like the place where the compliance procedures are not as good as they could be. But at the same time,
Hmm. Hmm.
this does not affect the commercial opportunities of Dubai at all. So you go to this place, it looks like New York of the Middle East, and like there's so many people around. Everyone is
Hmm.
doing some kind of a business. Everyone is doing some kind of a fintech or something. So it's just a crazy place. I really recommend it.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. It seems like it's a trend that's been picking up over the
Mm,
last few years, and considering everything that's happening also
mm,
geopolitically,
yeah,
and in terms of the growth of our associated sort of industries, right? FX, crypto, your niche in terms of RegTech
yeah,
compliance, SaaS, and things like that.
mm,
It looks like a region that is booming.
yeah,
And I think, I don't know, Tony, if you'll agree with me, but I think that for every new region that becomes a financial hub, it might not have the regulatory mechanisms in place now that would make it, that would let it qualify to be on a green list or a white list or whatever may have it from other countries. But
yeah.
eventually, perhaps that will take place as more and more business thrives in Dubai. I mean, that's just my impression.
No, and also I would add here that as opposed to many countries that are, let's say, in the European Union, Dubai is like an outlier to a certain extent, and they are the emirs, the people that are ruling the country. They are very courageous in terms of new technologies and innovation and new approaches towards regulations, and so they hire like the best like. The professionals all around the globe, especially from England, from the UK, and to regulate, and they give them like green light for whatever, and so you can
Hmm.
see like the most innovative approaches towards regulation in fintech sector in Dubai. So
Hmm.
where for example, let's say in Cyprus or elsewhere in Europe, the regulators are a bit shy because they have supervising regulatory authorities on the EU level, so they don't want to give some kind of a too much of initiative. But Dubai is
Hmm.
not like that, and so they are very very much
Hmm.
on the on the top level of innovation. This is very very
Hmm.
important, very precious.
Very cool. Very cool. Very cool. Let's see what happens, right? I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
it's a
sure,
wait
sure.
and see. It's a wait and
Yeah.
see. Tony, I wanted to ask you about the compliance and KYC solutions that you guys offer at
Mhm.
SumSub, but the way I wanted to ask this question is, I am someone who comes from a retail forex background. Spent many years working at a U.S. based retail forex shop, and so I'm quite familiar with a lot of the KYC processes in terms of the technology and things like that. But more so in a previous era, maybe if we want to call it that. So say 10 years ago, for example, or maybe
Hmm.
8 years ago. The way I remember it is, customers from different countries. Forget about the United States, but if we're talking
Yeah.
internationally, globally, clients were required to provide, a form of ID and an address verification. A lot of the time, that information was requested in the form of copies of official documents, and then those documents were either automatically cross-checked with databases that were
Yeah.
available, paid databases that could be accessed, or for specific regions and for specific countries, those documents would have to be checked in a manual fashion. So I remember
Right.
that for certain regions, the operational time that it would take to get an account approved or disapproved would be quite high. So we're talking even days at some point,
Hmm.
in some cases.
Hmm.
I Perhaps you can sort of fill myself and the audience in on how are things being done today, because I don't have that sort of eye into the back end broker operations these days. How are these things conducted, and sort of how do your solutions help brokers advance their operations in this particular field?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I mean, we of course we've made a big journey for this, let's say, 5 years, where all this time when we are in the business. Of course, the market is changing all the time. The technologies are changing. We saw, for example, quite recently. Well, not quite. Actually, it's quite an old thing already, but like old. This means like 2 years, maybe 3 years, in these dimensions. So like liveness detection,
Hmm.
for example, instead of selfie, right? So like 5 years ago, you could upload selfie with the document. Now it's liveness detection, which automatically scans your face and then checks it with the photo on your document. I would say that
Hmm.
generally the KYC solutions are very much opportunistic if they work on global markets. Of course, if, for example, you have a regional approach, let's say you work only for Germany or you work only for Scandinavia, then you can use other approaches. For example, in Scandinavia, they have bank ID. This means that all people are just covered by banks, and so
Hmm.
instead of uploading passports, you just need to upload some kind of a number, and maybe some SMS will come and check that your phone is with you, etc., etc., and that will be enough for verification purposes.
Hmm.
In Germany they have video identification, which is required by the law, and so that's the only way how you can do it. This means that it's like a Skype call with an agent. Generally, I would say it's you still need a passport or a driving license or ID card to upload. You can actually
Hmm.
use some databases. There are some databases. For example, here in Brazil, I live in Brazil right now. They have a
Hmm.
like a pan Brazilian system of CPF numbers. It's like a tax number, and so basically, if you have this access to this tax number, you can actually get all the information about the person from the database, including the face image. So
Hmm. Hmm.
so you don't need much of the documents for Brazil, for example. And there are some regions like
Hmm.
that all around the globe. For example, in India, they have Aadhaar number. Those, I think it was like the first example of the biometric pan national, let's say, biometric system. But generally, if you work globally, you still need to upload. You still need to require ID cards and passports. In
Hmm.
some jurisdictions, in
Hmm.
fact, you are left only with passports. For example, in Cyprus, if you read the laws like in as they are,
Hmm.
they require you to onboard any foreign customers only with passports, which is like outrageous because not that many people actually have travel documents. They just use ID cards usually.
Yeah. That's a good
Yeah, yeah,
point. Yeah, because in a lot of countries, a passport is only issued if you need to travel abroad, and if you
exactly.
don't need
Yeah,
one, and you don't have one, right? Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. And so, but in terms of trends, I would say that we will see three things. First of all, we will see self-sovereign identities. They are not legal right now. This means that you cannot really use the self-sovereign identities for financial companies, for example. This means that instead of
Hmm.
showing your documents, you just send some kind of credentials saying that in the blockchain this passport was verified. So it does not
Hmm.
provide you with information about the client. It just provides you the credential that it was verified. But for example, for alcohol shops or for casinos or something like that, where you just need to verify the age of the person, for example, on the first
Hmm.
level, it can work. Um, the other aspect is, of course, EID cards and EID documents, EIDAS certificate, EIDAS regulation that is right now in force in the EU. So the idea is kind of
Hmm.
like to combine all the EU countries into one and the same approach, and so that it would be like some kind of an identity wallet that would work all around the EU, and so that you could use this wallet in the same way as self sovereign solution, but like it will be governed by the EU authority, some kind of. So
Hmm.
this will be another thing. But still, if we return to numbers, to figures, the recent figures from the World Bank I just discovered says that still there's 1 billion people currently in the world that have no legal identity at all, so they don't have any documents. 1 billion.
Wow.
And then at the same time, 3 billion people right now hold new EID cards. So the next generation
Hmm.
ID things. So this means this
Hmm.
shows this shows this these opposite directions, and in the face of these opposite directions, I guess we will still have this traditional approach of uploading standard documents like passports, ID cards, and maybe cross checks against databases where it's possible. Maybe with
Hmm.
some places where you could also use bank ID solutions or something, or open banking solutions in Europe.
Hmm. Hmm.
So so
Well,
um,
yeah.
what I'm saying, it's a very much opportunistic field where you just use those things that are available on each specific market.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I understand. It seems like, from what you've said, it seems like even Western countries, like you mentioned, Europe, Scandinavia,
Yeah,
have progressed, much like India, as you also mentioned, in the sense that
yeah,
there are these unique identifiers for citizens today, where these unique identifiers can be stored in a database, and it could actually really improve, let's say, processing times. Because,
yeah,
for example, in the United States, we have social security numbers, and I know that 10 years ago, if you wanted to open up a brokerage account for forex, or for traditional stock trading, for that matter, and you had a
yeah,
social security number, it was much quicker for you to get your account approved, because, again, social security number provides, there's information associated with that social security number that could help electronically verify your identity, your address, and all of these different things. So it
yeah,
seems like Western Europe is moving along, and India, like, there's certain regional powers, or big regional countries that are also taking this step. So, in other words, in the grand scheme of things, on a global level, things are improving in terms of the processing times and sort of the ease of use of all of these systems. So it's not as rudimentary and manual as it was
if I
many
may,
years before in some of these. Yeah, sure,
yeah,
sure.
if I may here, to just adding again this opportunistic thing. So in Europe, this works only in Scandinavia. Why? Because they have global coverage of like several, let's say, okay, 10 large Scandinavian banks. They work with almost all the population of Scandinavia: Sweden,
Hmm.
Norway, Denmark, Finland. Right. So these countries, they're
Hmm.
just covered by, let's say, 10 banks. And so obviously it's very easy to just organize these banks and say, let's just exchange client data, of course with consent of the client, and make everything
Hmm.
easier. So this works only for Scandinavia. In India, this worked because they had a major problem of illiteracy. The
Hmm.
people could not just sign
Okay.
their papers, and so the only thing
Yeah.
that they could use was only biometry. So that's why they came up with biometry, and that's why you have this biometric system all
I see.
around
I
the
see. Uh-huh.
India. In the US, this social security number exists like for a century already. So obviously that's why they based the whole identity based they based the whole identity on social security number. So this shows this opportunistic approach elsewhere. So you base your identity system on the things that you have really in front of you.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, yeah. I wanted to actually, Tony, I wanted to get your impression of something. One of my
Mm-hmm.
previous guests on the podcast was on a few weeks ago. He mentioned an interesting thing related to Web3
Yeah.
and the blockchain. He mentioned, and I'm not sure again if this is an idea or if this is something
Mm.
completely practical and something that could be used today. But what he explained is the future of sort of KYC. On the blockchain is basically and Web3 is
Yeah.
basically you as a customer interacting with a company that needs to review your KYC information. At some point
Mm.
you'll be able to basically get your KYC verified, um, at a company who requires your KYC to provide
Yeah.
you services or sell you goods. And
Mm.
because that information is checked, and because everything hypothetically speaking will be done on the blockchain and in the Web3 sort of
Mm.
ecosystem environment, whatever we want to call it. my
Mm.
guest argued that my guest argued that in the future you can essentially go through a KYC check once. That KYC check will live on the blockchain as an entry on the blockchain. And so when the
Mm.
customer when the customer then goes and wants to purchase services or products from another vendor who also requires KYC, there does not need to be an additional, you know what I mean? There doesn't need to be a new request for KYC checks, because again, the new vendor can simply look
Yeah.
this person up on the blockchain and say, oh,
Yeah.
the KYC check for this person was done, oh, I don't know, let's say it was done in the last 6 months or 3 months, and hence that's acceptable to us. So hey, customer, your account's approved. That process could be very, very, very quick, because your sort of your KYC green check mark is living somewhere on the blockchain and is saying that for all intents and purposes you're good to go. How do you
Right.
feel about that? Have you heard about something like this or a
This is
concept like this?
this is what I just mentioned in the previous, let's say, previous like
I
three
think you did.
minutes
I think you
before.
touched upon it.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So it's a self-sovereign solution exactly. So there are different names for these things, but the whole idea is
Hmm.
that instead of uploading a passport or an ID card to someone with the risk of any leakages, etc., etc., you just have your ID documents on your basically phone, and then you verify this ID documents against, let's say, some kind of a verifying company, and the result is recorded in the blockchain, and then
Hmm.
you just share the credentials of this check against to those companies that you want to work with, and you check and you choose also what kind of credentials you really want to share. For example, the name,
Hmm.
or the date of birth, for example, for age verification purposes, or let's say the address. So all these things. So this is exactly what is called self-sovereign system. But the problem with it is that, in accordance with the current KYC regulations, you as an obliged entity, you have to know everything about your client. And
Hmm.
the idea of self-sovereign identity is to share only the minimum of information.
Hmm.
And so
Hmm.
there is a big, I would say, um, um, kind of like a principle conflict between those approaches. And so until the approaches are harmonized, I guess, we will not see
Hmm.
much of the self-sovereign solutions, except for only decentralized applications, because decentralized applications currently, they have no choice except for using self-sovereign identity systems. We actually in
Sure.
Sumsub
Hmm.
are also developing our own, let's say, self-sovereign identity wallet
Hmm. I see.
currently.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice. The next question, the next question is a bit broad, and then the follow up question
Yeah.
to that is going to be a little bit more specific.
Hmm.
I know that I know that you follow regulatory news quite closely. For example, I've seen your
Yeah.
videos that you do. You had a video related to the Bittrex case recently and things
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
I wanted to get your impression on what you think are the main themes and drivers for regulation across different markets, FX, derivatives, crypto. What are the main drivers for these markets in terms of regulation this year?
Hmm.
And perhaps there's some specific regions that may be a challenge to brokerages, to crypto firms, in terms of your expertise and kind of what you know in terms of what's coming down the pipe in a sense from a regulatory perspective.
Right. So FX, derivatives, and crypto, they are regulated on mainly three levels. The one is AML and sanctions compliance, and this is exactly the point related to Bittrex case. It was based on
Hmm.
violations in AML and sanctions compliance. Then you have consumer or slash investor protection, and you
Hmm.
can have the examples of this in Europe, MiFID, and in the U.S. Securities Act, and the third is corporate regulations, rights of shareholders, etc., etc. So. In general, I would say that FX is already an established area of business, and not much things are actually happening there. So you don't see a lot of changes in terms of regulation in FX. Most of the regulations have been already done quite a long time ago. In terms of crypto, of
Hmm.
course, everything is different. So you see right now a lot of issues. Of course, with FTX crash, uh, we saw a lot of loopholes in the regulation of crypto, and some of the experts, we actually made a webinar on FTX crash, and it's like the reasons why it's crashed, etc., etc. And of course, one of the things that were discussed was, of course, the place where FTX decided to be regulated, which is the Bahamas. And
Hmm.
obviously Bahamas did not. So the whole tragedy was that the Bahamas were ready not to actually like supervise FTX really, and at the same time, and FTX kind of like relied on that, and so they just decided not to do anything really serious in
Hmm.
order to be a legit company. And they had a separate business in the US, and they thought that if they have a separate business in the US and they have some kind of a boring lawyer working for the US company, and the US company is good, then they're on the safe side. They don't need to do anything else. And obviously, what you see with the FTX is that when something happened, when you see like what is called a run on a bank, everything crashed completely, like the whole company, and the kind of the US part, which was which looked as a absolutely solvent company, crashed as well. So this actually shows that, the compliance procedures, they are on many levels, but you cannot just pick the cherries from the bowl. You have to do all
Uh-huh.
compliance procedures. If you don't have the board, after all, if you just have, let's say, a compliance officer who is pretending to do some kind of a job, but you don't have a board on the other side, you don't have board meetings, you are not compliant. You're
Hmm.
gonna have
Hmm.
problems in the future. This is exactly what happened with FTX. You cannot just pick some elements of compliance and leave others. So if you work in a regulated you if you're working in the regulated business, you should fit this kind of business. So you cannot be like
Hmm.
Sam. Like you cannot work in the regulated business and be like Sam. You can't be Sam, or you can work for regulated business. That's the
I
whole
see. Yeah,
idea.
yeah,
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 that's
yeah.
the whole idea. Yeah.
Well, actually, I wanted to ask you. Like, my impression is, I think short, medium term, what we're going
Mm-hmm.
to see, and this was going to be my follow up question to you, is what do you think medium, short, medium term implications are for regulations in the United States? Because the U.S. is the marketplace that has not had any sound regulation on the books yet with regards to is it a, how do we treat how are we going to treat crypto as a commodity? How are we going to treat crypto as a security, right? Because
Yeah.
there's
Mm-hmm.
use cases for both. We need regulation that recognizes it as both types of assets, right, today. And it seems to me that that might be a little bit more far off, right? So that's not something that's going to be uh, decided and finalized in the next year. But my impression is that in the United States, considering all of these cases that have happened, um, the next step is that crypto firms, crypto exchanges will be forced by regulators to implement a lot of the same AML KYC policies and
Mm-hmm.
other operational sort of policies and checks that today exist for traditional brokerages and banks in the United States. So your AML KYC, which has been lacking in a lot of places for a lot of companies, will be the first to be tightened or enforced. You know what I mean? Um, kind of paid more attention to. Is that also your impression, or do you have, what are your
I
thoughts?
would my impression, especially based on Bittrex case, and then Payoneer, and I think there was also Kraken case quite recently, and
Yes.
other yeah, Coinbase. These are all showing that the regulations are already in place in the United States. They are actually right now what they're doing. They're retroactively applying those regulations to previous years. Like the whole idea of Bittrex case was, for example, that they had problems in the past. It's not that they have problems right now. They had problems, let's say, sometime between 2015 and 2017 or something like that. At the time when
Correct. Yeah.
nobody was actually nobody was actually bothered by the idea of being compliant or something like that. So
Yeah.
this means yeah, so this means that right now in the US, there are plenty of regulations already, and crypto exchanges, for example, they are expected to have everything in place. They have to have all the controls, they have to have policies, they have to have procedures, they have to have special people appointed for that. They have to have board meetings about AML compliance and taking decisions about how to deal with specific risks, etc., etc. So they have to have all this in place already, and so that's why FTX crash again was so shocking, because they just saw that nothing was there, and that the whole FTX US was just a shell company that behind which you had a Bahamian, let's say, a group of people who are controlling the global business from the penthouse in the Bahamas. So that was the whole idea. So what I'm saying is that the U.S. Regulations are already in place. They will be, of course, more strict in the future. We saw the address, I guess, of the SEC, CFTC, and what else, OFAC, saying that. Just buckle up. We're gonna come with more and more regulations on the crypto business, and you should be serious about this from now on. And the second part, of course, will be that they will have a long arm on all crypto exchanges. What they're saying is that from now on, we're gonna have a long arm on you, and so even if you are regulated elsewhere in the Bahamas or in Singapore or elsewhere, we're gonna have a long arm on you. And if you are not behaving good, we will just bring you to court in the U.S. and we will judge you in accordance with the U.S. regulations. That's the bottom line, I guess, of what we're gonna have with crypto in the next couple of years.
Yeah, well, especially if these companies have U.S. clients that are onboarded, right? If they have U.S. clients on the book, then of course the long arm is there. It's definitely going to be there, either way.
Yeah, I mean, the U.S. is a global economy, and even if you have, let's say, two clients that are U.S. citizens, or in any case, you somehow affect the U.S. markets, you are in danger already. I mean, in
You're
any
on the
case, I mean,
radar. Yeah,
global.
you're on the radar.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah. So basically, the bottom line is that there will be no distinction really between Coinbase, which is regulated in the U.S., and let's say some kind of we will not name any big crypto exchanges outside the U.S., but they will be also under the regulation of the U.S. effectively. Right.
So, next question.
Yeah.
If you're ready.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm absolutely ready.
Uh, Tony, I wanted to also ask you. I don't know if you want to comment on this. The Gemini Genesis sort of argument about the earn customers. I don't know if you know about this case in the United States.
I haven't. Yeah,
Um,
I haven't read Gemini at the moment, but I can comment in general. Yeah.
Tony, we've discussed the FTX case.
Yeah.
There was also the collapse of Celsius last year,
Yeah.
and then in some recent news, also there is the case or the argument between Genesis Global, I believe it's called, and Gemini. Gemini is the U.S. based cryptocurrency exchange that
Hmm.
had a product where customers could, I believe, deposit crypto and then earn interest on that crypto, which is now turned into a legal feud, and also now regulators are involved. I believe the SEC has filed some sort of
Hmm.
um, some sort of actions, or at least is investigating both firms. Perhaps you can more broadly comment on some all of these situations, how they've transpired, and kind of what we should look for in terms of the future, in terms of any other possible contagion, and how this could possibly uh, positively and negatively impact the sort of the crypto industry going forward. A lot of people say it's crypto winter. Other people say no, it's actually a great time to consolidate, learn from mistakes, and learn from what's going on, and improve and come out of this, on the winning side.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I just read a bit about that. Yeah, yeah. It was like basically a claim of efficacy against Genesis and Genesis and Gemini, right? So like a
Hmm.
combined a combined procedure. Yeah, because as far as I understand, they were offering some of the securities to retail investors without going through the necessary procedures. Well, this is not as shocking as the recent documents that have been revealed in terms of in respect of the Celsius crash, because people are saying that like there are like several counts of criminal offenses
Really? Oh,
clearly looking at you when you're reading the recent documents about Celsius.
I see.
So I mean, yeah, I mean, these all are about one and the same thing. That crypto exchanges, as I said, they will be put on the leash on the side of the U.S. regulators, and so any things like you are offering some kind of securities to the general public without the procedures, and saying that this is not a security formally or whatever it is, this will not work anymore. So the SEC just showing that like the all the games are over. We will not let you. We will not. Yeah, we will not let you use the let's say the gray zones of the regulations, etc., etc. And maybe okay, maybe the regulations are not like absolutely clear, and maybe some of the regulations could be made better. But this doesn't mean anything really, because you are bastards. You are crooks. You're trying to fool the system. You're trying to fool the people, and so we will put you on the leash, and we will regulate you as if you are the worst of the worst in the
Hmm.
financial industry. That's the whole idea. And of course, these examples of Bitrex settlement and other Coinbase settlement, they're just showing that again, yeah, the game is over. Uh,
Hmm.
and the only thing that you can do is just to show all of your skeletons from your drawer, pay for them, and then start all over, like, as a clean business. So
Hmm.
I guess that's the future. And again, it doesn't really matter whether or not you are in the U.S. company, really. So
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
uh,
Yep. Yeah. Makes total sense. Um, Tony, I wanted to, before we wrap up, I wanted to take a step back and speak about
mm,
you as a person. I took a look at
thank you.
your LinkedIn profile. I saw that you
Yeah,
started studying law at university, and I just wanted
yeah.
to find out kind of what brought upon your passion for law and jurisprudence, because it seems like it's something that started from your maybe younger days, like when you were younger, maybe before university, and obviously you've turned it now into a career.
I started at my early ages at the university. I actually started playing Jessup. Jessup is like an international law moot court competition. It was a fantastic
Hmm.
time when you could go around the world and as a student, using the money of your sponsors, law firms, and spend time and find your new internships, etc., etc. And besides that, also to participate in the moot court competition, in which you like you were pleading against other like student teams, and discussing various topics of international law, about, let's say, international investment protections, or human rights, or the law of aggression, or anything like that. So this is where I started, and then I mean, at the LLM stage, for example, where I went to University of the Pacific McGeorge School of Law. I had fantastic teachers. I had, for example, Stephen McCaffrey. He is one of the world's leading professors on international rivers. Quite recently, he was actually acting as an agent in the International Court of Justice, in
Hmm.
a dispute between Chile and Bolivia about the border river. Like they had some issues related to how to use this river, and then also on the other side I had John Sims. He was like the constitutional expert, and a part of the team of Ralph Nader. I think that some of the audience will know who Ralph
Ralph
Nader
Nader.
is. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh-huh.
So I had fantastic teachers, and this John Sprankling, for example, he's like, I guess, the nation's like the most important authority the law of property. So I had good examples before me, and yeah, I had a passion in law. And I was practicing since I graduated in 2011. I practiced international law mostly and human rights, and then I just saw how fintech started all over around the place, and I thought it's a good time maybe to know more about them. And I got friends in the industry and started working in some of the startups. And this startup what was about identity verification for fintechs. That's
Hmm.
how I started with Sumsub.
Interesting. Yeah, yeah. That because that was going to be my next question: is what led you, what led you to come work for Sumsub when you have? It sounds like you have a very broad experience, at least from your university days and some of
Yeah,
this, the moot court things and
yeah.
things like that. It seems like you can apply yourself in many different fields within the legal profession, right? um,
Yeah,
and and and
and
and
the
so
point,
yeah.
the whole point, being in this industry of RegTech is that there are no rules really. Like, we are actually creating the new instruments, how to make the ML rules something real. And so
Hmm.
for that, you need not only just formal, let's say, skills. You also need some kind of creativity to a certain extent, and this is something that I thought very interesting in the area, And yeah, I mean, I'm happy being at this place, in this place. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, yeah, cool. Well, last question from me. You mentioned earlier in the episode that you are actually now living in Brazil. I didn't know that. I thought you were based in Cyprus. So,
Yeah.
if you could tell our audience a little bit, I think you've lived in California. Obviously, you went to school there.
Yeah.
I think you lived in Cyprus. You've lived in London. Now you're in Brazil. Can you give our audience a little bit of a quick impression on these different places in terms of personal life and work? And why did you choose to move to Brazil?
Yeah, when I lived in California, just to make it clear, like at my university, we had a big dining room in which you could just you could just spend time, and then you could see all around the place the people that were like sitting in groups, and they were not doing any homeworks or anything like that. They were discussing various startups. It was okay,
Uh-huh.
2010, 2011. So it was at the time when, let's say, Facebook was just like raising, and there were no other things that we have now in place, right? I don't know, like Revolut or crypto exchanges. Crypto was not
Yeah, yeah,
even
yeah, right.
in the place
Yeah.
at that time.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, so
Yeah.
I was, and it was California, so it was clear that the people were all around me. Those people probably right now they are billionaires doing some kind of businesses around new fintechs, new technologies, etc., etc. Not only in finance, but also in other areas related to new technologies. So I saw this vibrant. Let's say soup around me that was creating new projects, new ideas, etc., etc. And then London is a different place. London is like is a huge metropolitan city in which you kind of like lose yourself in some way, and you don't see that yourself that you are like something serious, that you are meaningful, because it's a huge place. It's just like New York, London, these kind of cities.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of like eat you to a certain extent.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Sure.
Cyprus is a good place. It's a very pleasant. It's very like home like place. This is a place where it's like you came to the house of your granny, something like that. And it's just a very
Mm-hmm.
pleasant place where you can just feel very comfortable, etc., etc. Now Brazil, right? Brazil is a huge country. Just I have lots of friends. Also in the IFX, I had lots of conversations about Brazil. Everyone is interested in
Mm-hmm.
Brazil. Everyone is like talking about how to build a financial bridge between Brazil and Europe.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, Brazil is opening up very quickly. So the Foreign Exchange Act has been just passed quite recently, and I think Innovation Artificial Intelligence Act. So they are opening up. They are ready to accept like investments from abroad, and it's a huge opportunity right now. It's
Mm-hmm.
250 million people living in a fantastic climate on the like close to the ocean. So it's a fantastic place where you can find new opportunities.
And so I'm assuming that you moved to Brazil more so for your professional sort of
Yeah,
and work purposes in a sense,
yeah. We
rather
are
than
expanding.
a personal decision, rather than a personal decision to
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
visit.
We are expanding on Latin American market, and that's why I'm here.
Hmm. Well, I think that goes toe to toe with sort of what you said and your impressions from IFX, and I know that this is something that's been discussed
Yeah,
by industry sort of participants and players over the years. Latin America in general, as a continent, right, or
yeah,
whatever half continent, if we want to call it that,
yeah.
is the next frontier, at least in my mind, for FX and CFD brokers, because it's a very untapped market in the sense that that market has not been fully covered, captured, whatever you want to call it, in terms of international brokerages setting up shop, letting customers trade.
Well,
Obviously it's a question of regulations as well, because from my understanding, there's no specific law on the books in Brazil governing FX trading, and so today it's kind of a
Yeah.
gray area, or perhaps it's, I don't know if it's a gray area or if it's completely restricted. I'm not sure.
Well, I mean, as I said, they just passed the law on foreign exchange, so that's exactly facts. But
So it's related to
yeah,
it. Mhm.
but they actually liberalized to a large extent. But you shouldn't think that this is kind of like a desert where nothing exists. Like in Brazil, there are
Okay, yeah, of
huge.
course.
Yeah, yeah. In Brazil, there are like huge FX companies, local FX companies. There are huge banks, like new banks. Like for example, a new bank, it's like a neobank, like Revolut in Europe, for
Hmm.
example, or in the UK.
Hmm. Yep.
So there are lots of businesses like that already existing. In Argentina, for example, I was very very surprised because like the largest marketplace in Latin America, just like Amazon in the US and Europe, right? It's called Mercado Libre or Mercado Livre. So I thought that it's a Brazilian business, but actually it's Argentinian. So they have a headquarters in Argentina,
Hmm.
and so it's not only Brazil; it's also Argentina, where you can have a lot of like new technologies business. Very very interesting. So even though Argentina is in crisis all the time, so it doesn't
Sure.
doesn't prevent people to innovate. So
Hmm.
it's a very it's interesting market in which you can invest, where you can find new opportunities. But at the same time, there are many competitors of the global players as well.
Hmm. Hmm. Wow, that's cool. Thank you, Tony. That's very,
Yeah,
very good to very good to know.
yeah,
Tony, we're out of time. We're out of time. I
yeah,
wanted to thank you for joining us today, and giving us your insights and some of
yeah.
your personal personal impressions. Definitely very interesting discussion. We wish you the best of luck in your expansion in Brazil, and
Thank you.
we hope you have a great time there, and hopefully sometime in the future we can chat again and get some more of your insights as things develop in the crypto industry, and just in general in terms of RegTech and KYC and everything else.
Sure. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention, and I will be happy to participate in something like that in the future.
Thanks, Tony. Have a great day.
Have a great day.
Thanks for listening to our latest Finance Feeds podcast episode. For sponsorship opportunities or to become a guest, please email us at info@financefeeds.com.